Greetings and welcome to this Monday morning, the 9th of January, 2023, third decade of the 21st century. It's already the third decade of the 21st century. No, it's not already. It's already 2023. It's been the third decade of the 21st century since 2020. Yeah. I always say that, if you're new to my channel, if it's your first time here, I always say that to kind of make a bit of a juxtaposition, if you will, where people once predicted us to be in the 21st century, let alone the third decade, versus where we are. Now, on my channel, I like to do one of two things. I like to either indulge in socio-political content in a very polite nature, so to speak, and then I also like to get a little meta. I like to delve into some nerdier content. I just did the socio-political, so now we're going to get a little nerdy. A recent tradition of ours is we like to watch, after opening presents and after watching A Christmas Story at least once or twice, we always go into the Christmas New Year season by watching Firefly plus special features, Serenity plus special features, and then in the last couple of years, maybe 3 years, we'll follow that up with Chuck. All right? So a little background on that. I was not aware of, nor did I watch Firefly when it was originally on the air. Unfortunately, due to how it was managed by the studio and executives, Firefly was canceled after 12 episodes. 14 total episodes were made, but only 12 made it to air. And then later down the line, I think Fox Television eventually showed the other 2 episodes, or they may have just remained previously unaired, but they also showed the episodes out of sequence, out of order. So Firefly was unfortunately the show that never was, and it has created a massive fan base, a huge following. And what's funny is the fan base continues to grow because so many people discover it after the fact. I am no different. I was aware of Nathan Fillion from a little show called Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. That went for 4 seasons. It was cute. It was fun. It also involved a little-known celebrity called Ryan Reynolds. And that's how I remember Nathan Fillion. And I say that because when the trailer for Serenity came out in various forms, whether on DVDs or otherwise, I was aware of Nathan Fillion being in this movie, so I always wanted to watch it. And then I finally watched it after coming off of a patrol, and believe it or not, I actually have combat journals that I kept where I don't know if I mentioned watching it, but I may be able to pinpoint when I watched the movie. I was deployed to Ramadi in 2006. I had just come back from a patrol, and somebody had a copy. I borrowed it and I watched it, and I went through all the special features, and I learned about Firefly. A couple years later, I would be stationed in Columbus, Ohio. My wife and I were up at Best Buy. I just happened to be passing by the bargain bin, and sitting on top was Firefly. Now, I don't know how long it was after that, but it wouldn't be maybe a year until my wife and I would finally throw that thing in and watch it. And ever since we did, we've been in love with it ever since. But I would say somewhere around maybe I can't pinpoint this, but somewhere between 2009 to 2011 is when we watched this. And I say that because from 2010 to 11, I was deployed to Afghanistan, and I can't remember if we watched it before Afghanistan or after, but I know we watched it during Christmas, which is why it's become a bit of our Christmas ritual. Anyways, Chuck is no different. We stumbled onto Chuck, I believe, because of Shazam. Shazam came out in April of 19, and I think what had happened was this. In March of 19, Supernatural announced, at least Misha, Jared, and Jensen announced that in March of 2019, season 15 would be the final season. That starting in the fall of 19 would be the last season of Supernatural, that they were going to end the series. So I believe what we did was we binged watched the entire 14 seasons of Supernatural so that everything was fresh in our minds and current going into season 15. So I think once we did that, we were caught up in this binge watching mentality, because so much of what was on regular television was starting to get to be a bit unbearable. It's just my opinion. If anybody shares in this opinion, it's purely coincidental. If you differ in this opinion, no big deal, no harm, no foul. You don't have to believe what I believe, and I don't have to believe what you believe either. I believe a lot of topics that were being entertained in the zeitgeist infiltrated entertainment. For some people, it's very positive. For others, it was very negative. Specifically for me. My wife, God bless her, she's like Switzerland. She's neither here nor there. But she gets bothered when I get bothered. And God bless her for it. Maybe that's why we work. Maybe that's why we're still in love to this day, because she'll start to feel what I'm feeling. She could care less what they're talking about, but she gets upset because I get upset. So much of it was starting to become unbearable because of how much wokeness or whatever was starting to infiltrate entertainment. And why do I say that? Because when I tune in, I'm trying to tune out. After I spend my day having to negotiate and walk on eggshells, all these hypersensitive topics, when I come home and I want to decompress, I just want to tune out. I don't want to tune back in with my fiction. And so much fiction was being overwhelmed with all of this stuff. So we started really getting into binging, specifically binging older content. And after watching Shazam, we decided to give Chuck a try, because a lot of stuff wasn't airing yet, because a lot of stuff doesn't start to air until mid to late September sometimes. So we were like in between stuff, and we had just finished binge watching Supernatural. So we decided to give Chuck a try, and thank God it was streaming. We found Chuck to be delightfully entertaining. It went from 2007 to January of 2012. It barely broke into 2012. And apparently, like Firefly, but different, Chuck struggled all 5 seasons. Well, all 4 seasons. Going into the 5th season, they knew that it was over, that they were given a limited amount of episodes, a limited amount of time, and they had to be done. They had to finish telling their story. Well, we just got done doing our annual rewatch. Firefly, Serenity, plus special features, and then Chuck followed by special features. This last Friday of last week, we just finished the last 3 episodes on the last disc, plus all the special features. So FYI, if you've never seen it, you may want to stop watching this now, because I'm going to throw some spoilers out there. Because I got a couple of things to say, and some of it goes hand in hand with my previous video. So they ended the series with one of the main characters, Sarah, basically losing her memory. There's a lot of gaps, which Michael Rosenbaum loves to say you have to suspend disbelief. You have to suspend belief. All right, you have to just sort of go with it, right? Like, well, how did they reset her memory to 5 years ago? How did this? How did that? But the point of it is, Yvonne Strahovski's character, Sarah Walker, by the end of season 4, is married to Zachary Levi's character, Chuck Bartowski. On the 10th or 11th episode, another character played by Angus McFadden somehow is able to delete all of Sarah's memories up to the time frame before she meets Chuck. And for the last 3 episodes, she would eventually discover that he's a bad guy, that he did this on purpose, that she actually is in love with Chuck, and that she's actually married to him, and it's all this. But she doesn't have those memories. So for anybody who's watched it, I'm going to get a little meta and I'm going to throw some things out there, and I'd love the feedback. If you haven't watched it, no big deal. I apologize for the spoilers. Stace, if you're watching this, I hope you've seen Chuck. If not, I'm going to apologize because you normally watch my videos to the end. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to have some spoilers out there. So for anybody that this reaches, if you've seen Chuck before, I got a couple of questions. All right, well, several questions actually. First and foremost, after that whole debacle with Decker and their accounts were frozen, were their accounts unfrozen? Because the way that the story and the rest of the season proceeds to follow is that they had to rely on income from the buy more and contracting. So were their accounts ever unfrozen? Did they ever get their money back that they received from Volkov? Because I don't believe that was ever mentioned. I mean, I've rewatched it numerous times and I don't recall that ever being mentioned. Secondly, why was the buy more physically sold? Was the building sold? Was the business sold? In which case, isn't that Chuck and Sarah's money to begin with? But none of that was mentioned. All they show was that Big Mike says new owners are moving in, and they show Subway going up. So I feel like there's a little gap there. But I also feel like whether there's a detailed gap or not, the buy more is gone. That's over with. So in which case, what happens to Castle? What happens to Carmichael Industries? And I'm building to a point here. And then I recently joined a Chuck fan page on Facebook, and I posted my comments about how my wife and I don't like the ending. And there's been quite a bit of feedback. And basically what I can tell you is this. There's two distinct camps and possibly a third camp. There's the people that love it, that think the ending was perfect. There's the people who hate it or don't like it. And then there's the people that are like, I neither hate or love it. So, here's my issue. I did not like the ending because, specifically, in this humble man's opinion, to include my wife, who's not present at the moment, there was no confirmation as to whether Sarah got her memories back. Zero confirmation. All that happened was that they kissed, and the assumption was that they lived happily ever after. But you're left to assume that. You have to fill in the blanks. You have to create your own ending. If that's what the creators had intended, then so be it. No harm, no foul. I didn't like it. After all of that back and forth, and when Chuck finally gets the girl and you felt this great sense of victory and you just really felt for the nerd, I really felt disappointed because at the end I was like, does he still get the girl? Or, you know, what happened? Was Sarah willing to be like, well, look, I don't have those memories, I don't have those feelings, but I'm willing to give it a shot. We're left unknowing. You're left to fill in the blank for yourself. You're also left to fill in the blank, what happens next? Ellie and Awesome, they moved to Chicago. Grandma maybe goes with, maybe doesn't. Chuck stays in Burbank. Did he own the house? Did he buy the house? Is he moving into the house? Is he staying in the apartment? All right. What about Casey? Is Casey back to work for the NSA? You know, did he find Gertrude? Are they working together? What happens to Carmichael Industries? Is that gone? What is Chuck doing now? As a fan of the show, I feel like there was a little bit more that could have been told. All we were left with was that Carmichael Industries was taking a break, or that it was over. At least the team was over. Chuck and Sarah as a spy team, Casey as part of that spy team, that was over. That was confirmed with General Beckman, but the future was left uncertain. Some people loved it. My wife and I did not. Here's the thing. It's an innocent enough topic. If you want to partake in this conversation, I'm all for it. Do me a favor. Something I picked up on in the fan page on Facebook. One or more individuals were overly invested in how much they enjoyed the ending. and I don't know if they could see the forest through the trees, but they were pushing it so hard. They were pushing it with such enthusiasm, like identity politics, if you will. You have to see this. You have to believe this. There's no other way. That's not what this channel's about. If you like the ending, feel free to talk about why you like the ending. But don't come at it from the perspective of, how could you not? How could you not feel the same way I do? How could you not agree with me? Come at it with an open mind. Like, look, I enjoyed it, and this is why I enjoyed it. Why did, and be open to the fact that other people may not. Other people may be like me. Other people may just be built like me. They wanted more. They wanted a more conclusive ending. All right? They wanted maybe one more episode where you find out what direction everybody's going in. Is Carmichael Industries kaput? Is the Buy More a new business? Is Castle kaput? Did Chuck ever get his money back? Did he buy the house? Or the last thing we ever heard was that the realtor let them in and they made enough money off of a contract to potentially put a down payment on the house. But, did they ever get their funds unfrozen? Did they actually buy the house? Is he still living in the apartment? What's he doing? Where's he working? Are he and Sarah working on getting her memories back? Are he and Sarah still a couple, or did they physically go their separate ways? My wife and I felt longing for more. And, it's okay. On that note, whether you're a Firefly fan or a Chuck fan, I'm going to bring up one more item. Chuck gave us 91 episodes. For the most part, I would say 89, give or take, were phenomenal. My wife and I did not like the ending. And I'm sure there were a couple other episodes that were not as great, but were critical to telling the season-long story. Firefly had half of a season. They only got 14 episodes. And for all intents and purposes, Firefly was and is so good because it didn't have the opportunity to tell more stories, where some of those stories could have been bad, some of those seasons could have been bad. Some of the shows that I'm a big fan of, some seasons were hit or miss, some storylines were hit or miss, some endings were hit or miss. Firefly didn't get that opportunity. So if you're somebody who watched both Firefly and the big damn movie Serenity, I'm also curious, did you read the books? Not the new ones with Greg Pak. I haven't read those yet. I've got a couple, but I haven't read them. If you read the old Dark Horse comics, between those books, the movie, is Firefly so good because of how limited it was, where it didn't have a chance to go long enough to fail? And when you compare that to Chuck, is Chuck still good because it didn't go on forever, but also was there enough opportunity to maybe have some bad episodes? Did Chuck have some bad episodes? And because maybe they were rushed, did Chuck have a bad ending, or did you love the ending? Also, if you're a fan of Firefly, I'll put this one out there. I have not yet read any of the novels, although I have a couple, and I have not yet read the Greg Pak graphic novels, where he takes the story apparently in a different direction. So I'm more than happy to elicit feedback from there. And I've done it! I did it in less than 20 minutes. I'm happy about that. So, look, here's the deal. I don't care if you like, I don't care if you subscribe, I don't care if you hit the notification bell. I just like to have conversations. And Stace, I really look forward to your feedback, even if you're not familiar with any of the properties. Even if you have questions that I may be able to answer about these properties, so that maybe I can convince you to watch them. There's no need to watch them, Stace, if you don't want to, and there's no obligation to enjoy them if you do. But anyways, if you leave a comment for anybody and Stace, you're awesome. And we'll see you next time.